they have what I call defend the first domino. They know, for instance, that if the first domino goes down, it hits another domino, and suddenly you're starting to move. For instance, if you allow alternative healing to become widespread in society and accepted, the next question is, how does it work? So the first domino goes down. Okay, alternative healing, we accept it works. It's going to become part of mainstream society. Next domino, how does it work? Next domino, well, reality is not like we think it is. So you defend the first domino. And so with the spider's web, they want to defend the outer reaches of the web so you don't start to get deeper into it. So they're quite happy for people to think that the Bilderberg Group is it. That's where it's all being orchestrated through, because they're out here. They're not where it really is. Because once you get to the spider, you're into a completely different understanding of the nature of reality. You're into other dimensional non-human entities. You're into all this stuff. You're getting really, really deep into where it's being played out from. The Bilderberg Group and the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, all these organizations are play-out organizations. It's not an origin organization. The origin organizations are all around the spider. And the Bilderberg Group's way out from there. And so they're quite happy for people to think the Bilderberg Group is the conspiracy, or is fundamentally where the spirit conspiracy is coming from. Nowhere near, mate. Nowhere near. There's different levels of this. And the different levels in and of themselves are true. But they're all only part of the truth, not the truth itself. So for instance, on one level, yes, it is about wealth. They have created a global economic structure that makes sure the energy of money, which is how they use it, they've created a structure where they understand that everything is energy. And you can attract energy towards you by manipulating its vibrational state and loads of other deep esoteric things. And so when we observe this structure and in a decoded holographic illusory reality we call the physical world, what we see is the money, the wealth, all flowing to the few people. But if you could see that on an energy level, on a vibrational level, you would see a vibrational energetic construct which is drawing the energy of money to certain central points, like rivers. And they sit at these central points. They've just created, you could think of it like this. They're the magnet, and the iron filings are the vibrational code of money. So they just draws it to them. And they have therefore gathered together enormous amounts of wealth. But that's not what it's about. It's about wealth on that level. But you go to the next level, the wealth's really about control. Because if you make it that people have to have money to live and to do things they need to do, even basic things in their lives, then if you control money, you control them. So it's about control. And you can keep going up the levels of what it's all about until you get into some really deep stuff that most people would think was impossible, ridiculous, and crazy. So there are many, many different levels of this whole conspiracy. And if you look at them individually, they're all kind of true, but they're only part of the truth. The real greater truth is that there is, and this is probably only another level of it, that there is a non-human race that's been manipulating this planet for thousands of years, and they are seeking to take total control of it and turn this planet into a colony. Just like the British Empire colonized the world, so they want to colonize this planet. For some reason, they can't do it directly. So they do it covertly by having this network of families do it for them. And these families have been interbreeding for thousands of years, going back to ancient Sumer, Babylon, and before. And then you ask the question, why the obsession with interbreeding? You look at the European aristocracy, which is what these families became, and the European royal families and royal families around the world, which is what these bloodlines became. They incessantly interbred with each other. Blue bloods, keep the genes up. And then when humanity started to reject over dictatorship by royal diktat and aristocratic rule, these bloodlines moved into the dark suit professions of politics and business and banking and all this stuff. Why? What the obsession with bloodline? And again, we need to understand the nature of reality before we can understand why the obsession with bloodline. It's not just snobbery. It's not just, they're from the lower class and all that stuff. It's about vibration. They carry a particular vibrational code because they are hybrids. They are the result of an interbreeding between humans and a non-human race eons ago, which has continued since. It's talked about in all the ancient texts and accounts around the world. And these were the bloodlines that became known as the demigods, part human, part gods, as these non-human entities were perceived as gods, because they had advanced technology and all the rest of it, and you'd think they were gods compared with what you were at the time. Now, this interbreeding created a hybrid DNA, and in the decoded world of apparent solidity, we see DNA. What DNA really is, like everything else, is a vibrational frequency, a vibrational code. And these entities operate just outside the frequency range of visible light, which is why we don't see them. To operate inside visible light, undetected, they need a human body that operates within the frequency of visible light. And that's what these bloodlines are. They created a specific hybrid, which was part human, in other words, part human vibration, and part reptilian vibration, because they take a reptilian form, these entities. And they then, from just outside of visible light, can, again, an age-old theme, anywhere you go in the world right to the present day, they possess these particular bloodlines. Why go to all this rigmarole for that? Two reasons. One, on a vibrational level, because they're hybrids, their vibrational code is far more compatible with the vibrational code of the reptilian entities. So possessing, taking over their mental, emotional, and perception faculties is much more powerful and much more fundamental than trying to do it to a non-hybrid where the vibrational compatibility is a lot less close. So the game is, within the world of visible light, keep interbreeding these bloodlines, these hybrid bloodlines, because once you start breeding outside of the hybrid, that compatibility gets diluted very quickly when you interbreed with the rest of the human population. So the interbreeding is fundamental to holding this, you could call it computer code if you like. And that system, which has been going on for a long, long time, is very, very powerful in terms of manipulation and control. If you could see just beyond visible light, and some people I've met can, then you would see anything but human overshadowing them beyond the visible light frequency range that our eyes can decode. And sometimes these entities enter visible light, and that's when people say, I saw this reptilian entity, just it appeared in front of my eyes and then disappeared. So the bloodline is merely a vibrational vehicle, a vibrational mask, you could call it, to put to the world. So people don't realize, the population of the world doesn't realize that actually they're hiding behind human form when they're not human. And they need this hybrid vibrational bloodline to do that. Otherwise, they couldn't do it. So when you look at these people that I say are the reptilian hybrid bloodlines, they are obsessed with accumulating more and more and more and more, because these particular bloodlines have more reptilian genetics, so they show more traits of the reptilian brain. They are full of fear, these people, not least of each other. The other traits that we get from the reptilian brain are, and this is official science, an obsession with top-down hierarchical structures of power, which is what these people are obsessed with. And look at human society. It is just an interconnected web of hierarchical structures of power. And another thing we get from the reptilian brain is a subordinate attitude to authority. As I was reading another article recently, which was talking about the reptilian brain, and how when, for a lot of people, maybe most, the boss walks in the room, there's an immediate reaction. Because what you're doing is you're reacting to hierarchy. And that's the reptilian brain again. And when you study the reactions of that reptilian brain, as I have in great detail, particularly, especially more recently, because I've realized the fundamental impact it has on human society and control, you realize that out there, we live in a reptilian brain society. The traits of the reptilian brain have just been expressed as what we call global society. It's operating on all levels. And isn't it funny that that is the case when I've been saying all these years that actually the control system is originating from a reptilian non-human reptilian race? Just by coincidence, nothing to worry about. Guy's crazy. Don't listen. I'm crazy. What we're seeing is the preparation for something. I've been saying, like for all these years that there's a reason why these non-human entities operating just outside visible light don't just come in and take over. There's a number of reasons, not least the fact that at least most of them operate outside of this frequency and therefore can't interact with it. They need a conduit. What's happening is that this reptilian non-human group that's been manipulating human society for eons, thousands of years and beyond, is eking out this technology as it is necessary to change society. A cover story is sold to the public about how it came about. Oh yeah, so-and-so discovered it in his garage with his mate. When what's happening is it's being eked out through the secret projects into mainstream society. So when they reach the point that to advance the agenda more, fundamentally they need computers, suddenly computers appear in society. When they need nanotechnology, suddenly nanotechnology appears in society. And even some scientists that articles that I've read from them have said, it's kind of strange how these things just come out of nowhere and suddenly technology possibilities is transforms it very, very quickly. Well, what if someone's saying, okay, let that out now? Because within the earth are cavern systems, cities you might call them, that have been talked about in ancient texts around the world for thousands of years. And some of these reptilian entities live within the earth. And the underground bases around the world are what? Underground bases. And as you go down, eventually the lowest levels of these bases open out into these reptilian colonies within the Earth. And this is where the interaction takes place. And it's where technology is transferred up through the levels and out into mainstream society when it's needed. And there are people who are assets of the National Security Agency or whatever in America, and it's like around the world, who are used as the front to bring it into mainstream society. And they become very rich. Some of them become very famous. But what they are is the vehicle, not the origin, to get this technology out into the public domain. Because, very simple, without the computer system, without nanotechnology and microchips, they could not build their total central global control system of every man, woman and child on the planet. So it appears when it's necessary. Now, people watching this, the vast majority, no doubt, will say, that bloke's mad. You know, I've been called that before, you know. I don't care. I'm interested in what's going on, not winning a popularity contest. And that's what's going on. And at some point, the conspiracy researchers who don't go anything like that far are going to have to address that. Because unless we go into those areas of understanding where the origin of this comes from, we're never going to stop it.